Do you believe that anybody could change their life if they desired, if they felt stuck, or is it not possible for some people? What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's possible for everyone, but there's a big caveat, and that is that we need guidance. We
Okay.
cannot escape our own illusions if we're surrounded with the same people, the same philosophies, the same ways of coping with the emotions, and all of these imprints from your past that come up and trigger you, or maybe even the distorted ways that you see reality.
Have you ever felt like your life is falling apart, unraveling at the seams, or you're just plain stuck? It can feel so frustrating, can't it? But what if these moments are actually doorways to your greatest radiance? Today's guest, Ron Coquia of Radiant Consciousness, is here to show you how to access the richness and vibrance of who you really are. Ron is a former engineer turned consciousness coach, healer, and creator of quantum source alignment, a revolutionary modality that helps awaken souls heal and align with their radiant self. After leaving a very successful career in information technology, he spent over a decade exploring more than 40 modalities, healing, transforming himself, and building beautiful creations that help empower people to release their inner resistance at the source and live the radiant life their soul came here to leave. Ron, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kat. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for that powerful and beautiful introduction. I
Oh,
appreciate you because you've been on the journey for so long. You understand what I'm here to share, and it's not an easy journey, you know?
no, it's not. And I can't wait to hear a little bit more about your journey and maybe how it became a tad bit easier and how you support people on theirs.
Thank you. I want to give a little bit of a secret here is that we were all born this radiant, amazing, beautiful beings. If you look at a child, especially a toddler, exploring a room, you can see the magic in their eyes, like this aliveness, this wanting to feel, touch, understand, interact, even taste the world, right? I remember my son in the front of the mirror, I took a picture of him, and he was just totally licking himself. There's this curiosity we're born with. But
Mm,
as we grow up, something happens. And for me, what was big that happened in my life was that at 1 year old, my parents decided to leave the Philippines and they decided to leave me there. And when they left me there, I got to know my grandfather as like my father figure and my aunt as my mother. But at the age of 4, they've established themselves and they're like, we're ready to take Ronald to the United States.
mm,
And when my father shows up, he was a stranger to me. And they prepped me for this. They're saying your real family is really in the US and you're going to have fun. But that was a huge trauma for me because I had zero transition. I lost my family, I lost my home, my friends, my toys, my room, my comfort, my language, everything. And where I landed was a family that loved me, but they were different. And I didn't feel the love. I felt so lost. I came into this country where I didn't know how to play sports. I didn't speak English very well. I was one of the youngest ones. I started kindergarten at 4. And when it came time to, let's say, play kickball, guess who was picked last? Because I didn't know how to play.
mm.
And through this feeling of being inferior, fear of abandonment, I started to see the world differently. I started to fear things. And so I grew up with a lot of fear and anxiety, especially around people, especially around rejection. And it wasn't until I actually discovered psychology in high school. I took a psychology course because I did have one gift, and that is I was amazing in math and science. And so there was a science to helping me uncover like my true confidence and my true self-worth. And that's when everything changed. And I started to shape my life. And I said, okay, I don't have to be this insecure guy that feels rejected and is afraid of people. And I started to build confidence. And I built my career, went to college, got married, and I built this life where I didn't realize I was placing these coping mechanisms of success, of intelligence, of everyone likes Ron. He's so like sweet and friendly, and his life is great. And I realized this was something that made me feel amazing, but it shattered so quickly when I was on the verge of turning 40. You know, that moment when
Mm,
you're hitting this milestone birthday and you're like questioning your life. But something happened too. See, I
what
was at the
happened?
happiest place on earth, Disneyland, and I was taking my young toddler and my family, and we're just enjoying life. Like this is like the pinnacle. Like remember those old ads? This is dating myself of these stars wanting to go to Disneyland after their successes. That was the symbol. But something spiritual happened that moment is I got a phone call, and it was my cousin Roscoe from Seattle. And he didn't have a happy tone in his voice. He was in a place of deep sorrow because one of my cousins just got hit by a drunk driver. Within
Oh,
30 minutes, he died. And that moment, I like stopped in the middle of Disneyland and I felt such deep sorrow. And this sorrow cracked me open in a way that I never thought it would.
mm,
And I started to see my life as not what my soul wants for me. This life I created was what the world wanted, what my parents wanted, what everyone thought was success. But deep down inside, there was this emptiness because when I went to college, I was so into psychology. And I told my parents, hey, I want to change my major from engineering, which I was actually really good at. And they knew I would be a great
mhm.
engineer, to being a psychologist. And the answer I got was, okay, you can do that, but you're on your own paying for college. And wow, that hit me. And I'm like, okay, the people pleasing coping
Mhm.
mechanism of mine's kicked in and says, okay, I can't do this without their support. I'm just going to be an engineer. But at the verge of turning 40, I realized that emptiness, that feeling inside of what I'm here to do. What my soul thinks I'm here to do is to help people awaken, people like me who've had abandonment traumas, who had really trouble growing up and want to find a way to really live the truth of who they are. Not what the world shaped them to be, not the coping mechanisms of success or whatever it is that they did, but to find themselves. And that's what put me on the journey. And within 2 years after that awakening, I said, I'm going to leave this career and follow what my soul is here. Because when I have only 30 minutes to live and on my deathbed, I don't want to regret anything. I want to feel
Yeah,
like, yes, I followed it. Because no amount of success will make my soul feel complete if it isn't aligned with who I truly am.
I love that, Ron. It's very heartwarming and also relatable to a lot of people because the truth is nobody goes through this life unscathed, right? And we
Yeah.
all have those catalytic moments that can make us or challenge us to question all the big questions. Why am I here? Why does it not feel good, even though I have this outward success? And for you, it sounded like that moment when it cracked you open almost had you take a look at your life and start to see the abandonment wounds, see the people
Yeah.
pleasing, see all the things that you were doing that weren't really what you wanted to do or what you were here to do. In knowing you a little bit and reading your bio and hearing more of your story again, how common do you think it is that people are living with those feelings, so feeling stuck in a life that isn't what they would love? How common is that today?
I think it's very common. I mean, there are a few people that maybe experience very little trauma, like we all have some sort of trauma, right? But the people that have the supportive community or parents where they're really encouraged to cultivate what's in their soul and explore life in unlimited ways, like those are the people that, oh, they know what they're here for, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's those that have gone through significant change. Like I'm an immigrant, and I would gather to think that almost every immigrant has this immigrant wound, right? You're coming to a country, you're letting go of so much in your past, in your culture.
Mm,
You're trying to adapt. There's so many things that you're trying to change. And what for? Are you trying to rescue a part of yourself? Are you trying to run away from some pain in your past? Or are you really just trying to find a better opportunity for yourself? Regardless of that, there is the loss.
Hmm.
And that affects you. Culture affects you. Media affects you. The people around you will affect you.
Right.
And if you just stop and think and really give yourself permission to just wonder, what if? Because this is the magic of childhood is the what if, right? This is a magical portal. Like people talk about quantum jumping and different things, but the most powerful quantum jump that you could easily implement is like, what if all of my needs were met and I could do anything in the world? What if I had unlimited resources? And that kind of gives you a little bit of a look of who you are underneath, what's
Mm.
underneath in your soul and what you want. So I'd say if you could like sincerely stop and think about what if you had everything you needed in life, what would you truly invest this beautiful gift of life in? How would you spend your days? What would you be able to give to other people, even if you're invisible and got zero acknowledgement? If you take away the whole ego part of being rewarded or being successful or being kind or being whatever it is that makes you feel good, if you were completely invisible, what would you do in this world that would make you feel so alive?
Mm. I love that. I can see why we align now. I ask some of those similar questions that I have over the years, and they seem so simple, but they're very powerful and potent questions when we give ourselves the space or the permission to sit with them. So I thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that with the listeners and the viewers and hope that it has touched someone. Let me ask you a follow up. Do you believe that anybody could change their life if they desired, if they felt stuck, or is it not possible for some people? What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's possible for everyone, but there's a big caveat, and that is that we need guidance. We
Okay.
cannot escape our own illusions if we're surrounded with the same people, the same philosophies, the same ways of coping with the emotions, and all of these imprints from your past that come up and trigger you, or maybe even the distorted ways that you see reality.
Mm-hmm.
And this brings to this concept that I've realized over the years when I was trying to understand reality and how can we understand it so that we can actually transcend or move
Mm-hmm.
beyond our limitations.
Okay.
And the concept that I've realized is that we don't live in reality. We live in a perception of reality. And what creates that perception? It's our emotions, which can be triggered by a lot of things in our past. It's
Mm-hmm.
our perspective, which are our belief systems of how we see the world. We can see things from an empowering state, like I am unlimited in my ability to do what I need to do in life to really fulfill my soul, or I could feel like a victim, right? And then
Mm.
the third is motivation. What is
Okay.
really motivating us? And not just the motivating aspect of it, because can be motivated from our survival mechanisms, our fears of being rejected, old things from our past, like traumas or shame or fear of abandonment, or we could be motivated by that sparkle in our soul, right?
Mm.
That inspiration. There's even like these differences in the amount of energy. Survival energy is so heavy and it's so powerful, it could take over you. But that little quiet energy of your soul that knows your purpose, that is unconditional love, that's unconditional power, is quiet. And we
Mm.
have to be in stillness to listen to that. And if we are able to learn to master these three things, our emotions, our perspectives, and our motivations, which lead to our actions,
Mm-hmm.
that actually creates a reality. That creates a change. So we have to learn to awaken. We have to learn to understand the part of us that's witnessing the world, that's experiencing the world, that's living in the world in order for us to truly realize our potential.
Okay. I love that. And I think for people listening to this, there's many people on that awakening path, right? The word has been in the vernacular and the social media for a while now. There's so many people are awakened or think they're awakened, but they're still stuck or they're
Yeah.
stagnating. Can you tell me more about that and why that's a thing or what someone might feel like if they've woken up but still don't know what to do or don't know how to feel?
Yes.
Talk to
Yes.
me about that.
Absolutely. So the healing journey is very rewarding, but it's the most challenging. And I'll tell you why. It's because you have decades and decades of conditioning. Let's say your old self is here. And this is the part of you that's been conditioned by your childhood, all the people around you, all the coping mechanisms that you've adopted, of the ways to deal with all of the insecurities, the shame, all of the feelings inside. And this is on automatic.
Okay.
And you have an experience typically where something happens where you question your life, and maybe it introduces a level of suffering. And what's powerful about suffering is that it softens the ego. It softens your grasp on all of these coping mechanisms. Like for me, I piled success upon success. Ron is this really nice guy. He makes everybody happy. And that made me feel good enough. That made me feel accepted. What cracked me was the death of my cousin. And for other people, it can be loss or it can be overwhelm where they just break down because their career just broke them in half because they're just so stressed out. It could be abandonment by a spouse, a breakup, a divorce. And then that's when you start to question all of these coping. And when it cracks open, you start to see like the truth of you. And
Mm,
it doesn't happen just spontaneously. We start to look for teachers. We go on a spiritual path or a conscious path, and we find other people who've experienced this, other people who have seen our truths and can guide us to understanding that we are these spiritual beings having a human experience.
mm,
And when that happens, we create this new self we want to be. And it's so different than the old self, right?
mhm.
So we're in immediately in some duality. And in
Yeah.
this duality, we're fighting ourselves inside. We want to awaken, but all of our conditioning says no. Like I don't feel safe there. That
Mhm.
that's crazy. You want to do this. But the true you says, no, surrender. This is your way. This is where you're going to cultivate and really feel love, self-love. You're going to feel what true power is, not the control and trying to make everything perfect, but the power of owning your gifts and being an integral part of the world that can make a difference. So this is why it's so difficult.
Okay.
But there is a way. There is a way that we can actually navigate this.
It does make sense. And I believe there are ways too. And I'm always interested from other coaches, guides, healers, what have you, like what their beliefs and thoughts are. And, you have your own unique way of working with people, which I love. I read on your website, and I didn't know this when we talked in person, that you've studied like over 40 different modalities and created your own unique thing. And this is the radiant consciousness, right? To help people move forward and transcend beyond. What does that mean? Like exactly in your own words, like radiant consciousness in your program.
Radiant consciousness. Thank you. I love that question because I think that's the answer to what we're looking for in life.
Okay.
When I talked about what we were born with, like that purity of our soul, the radiance of our soul. When a woman is pregnant, what compliment do they get? You look so radiant. Why? Because they're carrying within them the most pure being, unaffected by the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is our nature. It's unconditional love. It's the kind of power that doesn't need to prove, but the kind of power that uplifts others in their own power. This divine wisdom that we have, intuition that we have, a joy and aliveness for life. And as life happens, as we have more challenges, we kind of break down and we kind of lose this spark. If we were to solve any problem that we have in our life, no matter what problem it is, we need to be in the best state of being as possible. And if we are able to get as close to that radiant being that we are, we're resourceful, we're coming from a positive state of love, we are tapping into all the possibilities of who we can be and how we can solve this resourcefulness, intelligence, all of these things. And I think
Mm,
that is the key to life. It's not about avoiding all the challenges and problems, it's being able to step forward in a state of empowered radiance so that
mm.
you can take in these challenges and transform them into gifts, transform them into growth, transform them into something that makes you feel alive about life and empowers you to share more of your light.
Cool. I like that. I'm really down with empowering people to share their light and share more light. That's partly what this podcast is about, or partly my own personal mission is bringing more light to the planet. And that's
Yeah.
why I love speaking with you. You light up when you speak about this work, and it's very authentic, it's real, and it's that radiance that you were just talking about, that childlike essence or that internal growth and feeling alive. I really appreciate the work you do and who you are and what you bring to the table. And I love that you have an engineering background too, because it feels like it really grounds some of this. You've studied so many modalities, you have the engineering background. And I read on your website, it's built with creativity and innovation. And you are an engineer by trade, but this pivot of doing the work of your soul is really a huge shift. It's almost like an act of faith to step into something completely different and go against the programming and the people pleasing. I think it's really powerful that you have all these. Your work, it offers not just a temporary high or spiritual bypassing that can be very common in our wheelhouse. Let's talk about that for a minute. What makes your work so different where there's not the bypassing, but we get down and get to the core of things? Like, how is it different from other things that are out there already?
Thank you. Beautiful question. This started when in the 80s, I kind of went on this quest. I'm like, I really want to understand life. As the engineer, like, how does life work? And I took this on. And even when I was in IT, I would be listening to audiobooks for 2 hours a day on personal growth. And that's how I would spend my commute time. When I left my career, I thought, okay, I took some training on how to be a coach. I understand the fundamentals. I've read enough books. I'm going to go out there and do this. Little did I know what I would run into, that the healing journey is filled with traps. You talked about it, like spiritual bypass. And the spiritual bypass is, I think, unconsciously taught by so many spiritual leaders. And it's not to blame them. Here's the thing about spiritual bypass. It's easy to understand this duality. And it's like, okay, what's the solution? Just be this. Just be the radiant self that you are. Let's just connect to who you are as a spirit. You're a spiritual being having this human experience. But we're not here to deny the full experience of life because our
Mhm.
humanity grounds us here.
Yeah.
Our traumas, our reactions, our feelings, they're in our bodies, they're programmed in our minds.
Okay.
And if we are to deny that, we're actually bypassing it. And we're going to hit a limit. And this is where I call the why people get stuck is because if we do bypass and we just try to jump into, okay, I am love, I am unlimited, abundance and all of these things, and I can manifest from this. But deep down inside in our unconscious, us as being like an iceberg, right? We can see the top
Mm-hmm.
10% and the 90% underneath. Like we can see the 10% of our wounds, but underneath, there's all these things that are happening that it can be sabotaging us, that can be limiting our growth, or we're still feeling this anxiety. When I left my job, I realized I want to be real to myself. I want to really learn how to get to here without suppressing this. What I've recognized is that there are several dynamics that prevent us from doing this. One of them is if we don't know a modality or a way to truly let go of the past. There's a lot, like 40, experience 40 because I wanted to truly heal. I didn't want to like get 90% there and 10% I would still have an anxiety that's still triggering me because even the littlest anxiety can actually affect you in different ways, affect your perception. And the 40 modalities that I experienced really helped me to see how different things affected you and
Okay.
how do you get to the core. There are several modalities that are amazing. One of
Mm-hmm.
them that helped me was the somatic modality I learned from the Emotional Health Institute. Healing can be a trap. Like I'm a perfectionist. So once I start healing, I go, oh, okay, now I'm free of that. Wait a minute, there's more. Like back to the iceberg metaphor, you heal what's on top and then more floats up, right? Heal
Does it
more,
ever?
more floats up. Heal more, more floats up. And it's endless. And we get stuck in these patterns. We have this reticular activating system that you may have heard of, many people talking about. Once you recognize something, you start to look for that. If you start
Yeah.
to recognize, oh, something's wrong with me, they have all of this trauma in my past. Oh, I didn't realize all that. Then you start, if you're especially like me, like a perfectionist, you start, oh, I need to heal that. Oh, let's postpone these big dreams. I need to get to the core of this first.
Yeah.
And pretty soon we get into the spiral and our world becomes healing. And healing is just part of life. It's actually an enabler for us to step forward
Mm-hmm.
and do things. Like today I did something different and that is I'm exhausted today. I woke up early. I'm a little bit under the weather, but I chose to show up. Healing is that way too. Even though something is still wrong, sometimes we actually need to experience what we just healed, freed us from something, and actually empowered us to a newer level of action, of embodiment, of power, of love. Let's practice that. Let's embody that. So, these traps we can fall into, we need to understand how it happens. And I thought I need to create some sort of modality that addressed all these traps,
Okay.
not just fully heal, but get us into one, practice listening to who we are. Once we're healed, that particular thing that's activating us, we have now an ability to connect to our soul. Who are we? What do we really want? What is the truth behind all of this? The new beliefs that we want to believe in, the new presence we want to embody, and then also being able to take that action, right? Having clear, like, we have internal transformation that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
There's seeds that we plant so that we can grow. But external in the world, real world, we need seeds too to kind of bring us into the real world so that we can share our gifts. Creating things in your life, like you, Kat, you created this, and this is creating and infusing you with more growth, right? More
Yes.
opportunity, more challenge. And you showing up and doing this is powerful for you, and it serves. You're doing exactly what I'm promoting in my work is you do the healing, you're expanding a little bit more, and then you share more of yourself. That is a powerful cycle. And then the more you share, you may hit a limit and you're like, oh, I'm triggered. I need to do more healing. And you do that cycle again.
Let me ask you a question about that. And thank you for sharing some of the nice things about me. The question is, and this came up with someone else I interviewed recently, do we ever stop healing? What's after healing? What's the next level? Where do we go from here?
I love that. It makes me think about one of the ways people will shortcut healing and get to that point, right? People want to
Mhm.
get to the point where, especially in America, we're in a society where the destination becomes more important than the journey. Sometimes I think the culprit is that we feel like healing can be a burden or healing is preventing us from actually stepping out. The shortcut is, go off, go to the woods, go to a monastery. People do this, right? They let go of their life so that they can be present. And you can do that. But for most people, they want to live in the world, they want to have the human experience. I think the more we become more confident with our ability to navigate life, it doesn't matter what comes forth. It's like, okay, there's a challenge that comes forth. But if you really feel into that and look at the journey of all the challenges that you experience in your life, in the end, when you really go through it consciously and do the healing work and that expansion, there's a gift that emerges after the challenge. And if we can just honor that cycle, then we may not even have to ask that question because I think that question comes from this feeling of like, when is it going to be done? To me, I've experienced this before, and we have to look inside and say, what does that part of us really want? Oh, that part is really tired. That part needs acknowledgement. Oh, I've been doing all this healing work and I haven't acknowledged myself. I haven't celebrated myself. And I made it this endless goal that I'll never achieve, that I'll never be fully satisfied deep down. And
Mhm.
this net may be buried underneath all of this. And so I believe that all of these things are to be explored so that we can understand ourselves and we can go back into those imprints in our past and release them so we can
Mhm.
just honor the journey.
I appreciate that. I love the concept of honoring the journey and then moving forward. One thing you touched on earlier, people are looking or needing the how to, right? It's not
Mhm.
just about I am love, but there is a tapping into consciousness and an energetic component that I'm all about. There are also practical steps that, or useful steps that help people move through the healing, move through the thing. So I'm going to ask you a personal question then. What is one moment in the past year where you had to walk your own talk and do some of this work for yourself or take an action step?
I love that question because that's where transformation is real, right? Everybody has their blind spots. Every healer needs somebody, either a teacher, a coach, a spiritual guide, a good friend, to give reflections.
Okay.
Because one point in my life, I said, okay, I'm going to cure everything. And I go, I'm going to do this self-love retreat with myself. And I only got so far. I did it for over a month. I isolated myself. I did this healing and then I started missing the world. We need that reflection. And for me, the biggest blind spot that I had researched and tried to find the best teachers to help me overcome was why is that after this journey and I learned so much that I still don't feel ready? I've done so much research. I spent over a decade understanding this, exploring these different modalities, creating my own. And why don't I feel ready? That's when I did the deeper dive. Some
Okay.
people will do an exploration and talk about past lives. And for me, past lives, whether you believe it or not, they can actually be just metaphors also of
Hmm.
your real life or ancestrally, you get these patterns of behaviors from your parents and people around you. Like we aren't here in a vacuum. We learn through other people's actions, beliefs, expressions, emotions. And when I got to the core of this, I recognized that that wound of me in the playground, of feeling like I was less than a human being. Nobody wanted to play with me. I felt ashamed of myself. That was the core of why I didn't step forward.
Okay.
And it was doing the deeper healing work around that, but also transforming the beliefs. Like, okay, you know what? Because I'm not stepping forward, I'm actually preventing people from like really experiencing some of the things I've learned so that they
Hmm.
can move forward. And just because I'm not perfect yet, I'm robbing people of the opportunity to grow too. And as much as, I've had people that I work with and I coach and they're telling me like, "Oh my God, Ron, you helped me so much. You're ready for this." I couldn't believe them because this fear was just so strong. After I worked through it and understood it and transform it, doing the deeper work,
Hmm.
it changed. And I was able to find like a group to help me build my website and all of my offerings and a community to support me in that. And all of a sudden, I feel alive again. And it wasn't without challenge. I still would get triggered because the more we expand, we'll hit another belief boundary. It's like, ooh, I don't feel safe. Then we do the work. And I went through cycles of this. Every time I launched something new, every time I stepped forward, every time I, published my chapter in this book that launched, like there were triggers, absolutely.
Mm.
But it's about me showing up, doing the work, honoring it, and allowing that cycle. So we don't give ourselves permission to be in the cycle of transformation. And we think, okay, we just got to push, push, push. We got to grow. We got to just be in this radiant conscious space all the time. It doesn't work that way. We need time for the body, the mind to integrate and slowly adapt and accept that part of us.
Okay. I love that. So it really, to me, sounds like you walk your talk. And I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing that too about not having been ready because you are so studied and so practiced and have been coaching. You helped me through a couple of things in conversation and when sampling your work to prepare for this. It's powerful. And I love the heart and the richness and the realness that you bring to it and also the lived experience that's so relatable to other people. You have such a depth of compassion for people as well as a relatability. I want to honor you and acknowledge you for that. And if anyone is listening and resonates with you, I hope that they will take the action step to get curious and reach out, go to your website. If someone doesn't resonate with you and is ready to take their own next step, where can they find you? What programs do you have? What do you have going on that's available for people right now?
Thank you, Kat. The best way to reach me is my website, and that's radiantconsciousness.com. Right now, I have this powerful video series that I'm offering. If you go to join.radiantconsciousness.com, it's a three-part video. It's for people that are awakened, but maybe they spent years on this journey and they're feeling stagnant and they're not quite getting to that place where they're allowing themselves through the journey in a fluid way where they're going through these healthy cycles of growth. It's called Awaken But Stuck, navigating this spiritual sacred in between. This video is really a starting point for you so that you can understand because there are really three parts to navigating this. One is taking ownership of your leadership. Like you are a leader. And when you've awakened that part of you, there is a radiant leader within you. A soul-based leader, question the decisions you're making, the choices you're making. Is it coming from your conditioned self? Is it coming from your leader self? How can you cultivate that? Number two is if we're navigating a journey, we need to know the map. And the map is we need to understand how our consciousness works, how our traumas affect us, how do we truly heal from that? And lastly, number three is we need some way, a modality to actually free us from the imprints of our past. That's why I created Radiant Quantum Source Alignment. All of this is part of a journey, a bigger journey that I'm offering that I call the Radiant Soul Alignment, because I think that's what people need is alignment with the
Mhm.
Radiant Soul. And that's
Yeah.
what's going to change yourself and your world.
Oh, I
Thank you,
love
Ken.
that, Ron. And thank you for being here and sharing that because you really are a radiant being. What is one quick tip or takeaway that someone can do to notice what radiance feels like in their body if they're not aware of that?
I have this process that I do with people that's very metaphorical, but it's real. And I'll share like a little snippet of it, just taking a moment and imagine yourself as you having all of these layers around you, these masks and identity. What if you're able to just, with curiosity and play, just open yourself up and let go momentarily
Mm.
of the things that you're doing to prove your success or that you're happy or whatever it is, and just giving yourself permission to just go underneath. That is a really powerful exercise that I do just so that I can tap into that. And another alternative is just saying, what if everything in life was there to support you in really uncovering the truth of who you are? What if you actually have access to getting all of your needs met? Because when you have all of your needs met, that's when you're quiet enough to really hear the stillness. What if you had all the money? What if you had the loving relationships? What if you had all of that? What is inside of you? So those are two ways that you can start to kind of tap into that. But make sure you do this when you have your space, not affected by anyone else. Two spaces that I love the most is in the shower when you're naked, when you're feeling the water cleanse you is one,
Mm.
super powerful. I get a lot of insights there. And number two is if you ever wake up in the middle of the night or wake up super early before everyone, it's such a sacred space in that stillness where it feels like the whole world is sleeping and you get to be you.
I love that, Ron. Thank you for those tips. Sounds like there's some vulnerability and some richness in there for people to dive into. And if you are watching this conversation with Ron and he resonates or has touched your heart in any way, definitely go to radiantconsciousness.com. The links will be in the notes below. Give yourself that opportunity to take the next step, work with the guide, someone that gets you or can support you on the next level of your journey and really unleashing and unlocking your own radiance. We really appreciate your time, presence, and energy today. Ron, thank you so much for being here in your authenticity. If you found value in this episode today, we invite you to like, subscribe, or share with someone else who could use the support of a great authentic, loving guide. Bye bye for now, and we will see you next time.